Okay, welcome everybody to the June Tech Talk with Dext, formerly Receipt Bank. And we've got Matthew and Amit here with us today. And so I'm very pleased to be getting a look at the new version of Receipt Bank and Dext Prepare and Dext Precision. So we've actually got, a lot of you might be familiar with Receipt Bank as it was, but Dext Precision is offering something a little different from what we might have seen before, so that will be great to see. So a lot of you regulars will know to type your questions in, and we'll manage the questions if we can along the way, but then there'll also be time for questions at the end of the session. So with that, let me hand over to Matthew.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining. I think just quick introductions. So I'm the practice solutions expert here at Dext. So if I can get the slide deck to start changing. Oh, there we go. Basically I'm the official nerd within the team. So I liaise a lot with the product managers. I'm sort of someone who manages their life in a spreadsheet. So effectively, I'm here to help outline workflows and really help firms implement the solution effectively. Sorry, that's about as good an introduction as I can muster for myself. But Amit, please save me.
Yeah, so the good-looking guy you can see in that picture there, that one on the left is actually Matt Rowan. He's just the guy you've been speaking to. The other guy is actually myself. We've as with a lot of companies in the city, in the CBD, I think just been asked to sort of work remotely again, and sort of heading back into maybe something similar to the world we were in last year. So fingers crossed it doesn't get too much worse. But look, I think it's a great opportunity for us. I think with today, what we wanted to do is really give an overview of us as a business and where we are, and not necessarily steer towards one particular channel, given we may have some people in the room that perhaps are coming across Dext/Receipt Bank for the very first time. There's a lot of stuff has changed just in the recent past with us, and we have plans to take our offering to a different level in the coming months and years. So in a nutshell, we're sort of, the journey for us really started with us being part of the Xero ecosystem, as a lot of you would be aware, as Receipt Bank. So last year we did do a rebranding exercise where we rebranded as Dext. And the reason for that was because we wanted the opportunity to have a platform from which we can add additional products, not just have the receipt capture tool, which people are typically familiar with in Australia, but also add additional tools and services on top of that. So we have, in terms of just our teams and how we operate, we're an organization that is head office here in Sydney for the APAC organization, and we invest heavily in the product side of what we do. We like to listen to feedback and so on. So calls like this are more just to start the conversation with some of you, and we'd like to sort of hear about your journeys and where you're going as a business, and just understand how we can serve your market moving forward. So I won't take too much more of Matt Rowan's time. I'll have a bit of a chat with you all at the back end and also answer any questions along with Matt. But Matt essentially is a fantastic person to have in this session. He really has seen the company evolve and our product stack evolve over the recent past, and he'll be showing us a snippet of both platforms today.
So we're going to spend as much time as we can in the product. So basically just to kind of visualize it, because I tend to be a visual person in some sense. So obviously we were a Receipt Bank. We acquired a company called Xavier Analytics. And so we've rebranded as Dext because we are going to be a multi-product suite. So we've just waiting for the ink to dry on another acquisition that we've put forward, and we've got some other products that are going to be in development. So the goal for us is really to make you as advisors more powerful and give you real-time data to enable you to give more accurate and real-time advice. So obviously Dext Prepare makes the accounts payable side of things more automated, which is a key step in that process. But where we wanted to go next was actually after all of that activity's gone on in the general ledger file. Well, on the flip side, how do we make sure that that data is of a high degree of integrity? So that's really where precision is geared towards, is basically validating everything that's going on in the ledger before you move on to your cash flow management reports.
Matthew, I'm going to jump in there.
Yep.
So you've got Xero there, which I know is where it all started, but you do integrate with other software now, don't you?
Yeah, so Dext Prepare has numerous integrations. So we do MYOB, QBO, Reckon, and Xero for the Australian side. Precision's a little bit more limited, so it's just Xero and QBO at the moment. We've only just officially launched our QBO integration, but we are obviously trying to be an agnostic solution wherever we can. So yeah, we're constantly trying to add to that list.
Good, thanks.
No, great question. All right, so basically, for anyone who hasn't sort of seen Dext Prepare, there are a couple of things that we've really worked hard on in this particular space. So, within this slide, I won't sort of read this out, but effectively, like the extraction side of things. So once we pull the information off of the document, we've got a world-leading machine learning algorithm that actually disseminates and gets the information out of the document and into the relevant fields for us to push into the accounting software. So we're quite proud of that engine and how much we've sort of put into it. It's certainly not a simple problem to solve, and we're sort of seeing that as we get this part of it down, where we've got things like the payment method, the supplier name, all those sort of generic fields. There are additional fields that we may be able to add into. So not trying to give away too much, but at the moment we've got a research piece going on around extracting the ABN number, and then maybe after that looking at things like payment details to help detect fraud. There's like a whole range of information that we're hoping to be able to get to in the long run, but we have to make sure that it's of that high degree of accuracy, and also just make it really user friendly. So things like the mobile app for users, because quite frankly, I think all of us know clients aren't necessarily keen to spend a lot of time getting you information if they don't see the value in getting it to you. So we wanted to make a user interface that was really beautiful, really easy for them to use. So obviously that's the mobile app, and we'll have a look at some of that in a moment. And then cloud storage, just basically a raft of making it easy to get that information in and get it into the general ledger. So some quick updates on the Prepare side before we jump into that product. So something we've just released recently is actually purchase order matching. So effectively, if you do have an invoice come through that has a purchase order or is related to a particular purchase order, you can now actually assign the purchase order to the invoice in Prepare to then push across into the general ledger. So that just makes it a lot easier to obviously reconcile that information once you get into the GL. And then obviously with our sales invoice functionality, so if you do have a third-party software that you're generating sales invoices for and need to get that again into the ledger, we've now got an ability to forward those invoices into the system for us to extract and then push into the GL. And then, of course, we've also recently launched support for sales invoices to MYOB. So prior to that, we were actually only able to submit it through to Xero and QBO. So we've kind of got this constant evolution of functionality that we want to push through. Something else that we've done recently, and we'll sort of probably highlight this a little bit more, is actually giving you the ability to turn off our duplicate detection function on a per supplier basis. Because we do know there are some suppliers whose, I guess, invoice format doesn't always lend itself to being very easy to spot that they are in fact different invoices. So, for ones that you get chronically constantly merging or constantly auto merging, we can turn that function off now for that select supplier. So ones that I come to mind is there's a particular type of plan with Telstra where they don't actually issue invoice numbers. It says invoice number on the document, but they actually use the customer reference number as the invoice number. So every invoice that comes through, regardless of month, has the exact same invoice number, which confuses the system to a certain extent. So I don't know if anyone's had that problem in the past or tried it out. Personally, I kind of wonder why Telstra have done that, because they've also got other plans where that's not the case. So it seems very interesting that, I don't know. Anyway, that's a Telstra problem. But there are some other suppliers globally that we know that can be a problem for. And then obviously the supplier rules functionality. So sometimes if you've got like a franchise or a group of different clients, really the rules are going to be consistent across the board. So you might actually set up your rules in a CSV and then upload those rules into each prepare file so that you don't have to replicate them each time. Awesome. So with that all being said and done, oops, my system's just frozen for a second. Let's actually jump into prepare. There we go. We'll have a look at that. Any questions while I'm switching over?
Not so far. So yeah, let's have a look at Dext.
The system.
Yeah.
So I'll just quickly,
like a portal that has both.
Yeah, so that's the beauty of this like strategy that we've got to be a multi-product platform. So we're actually, so if you've got both solutions in play, you'll actually get what we call the Dext homepage. And so from here, you can actually interact with any of the systems that we're going to add into this via one single login. So if I needed to go between Dext Prepare or Dext Precision, I've got the ability to literally just click into that particular app. And then up on the top left-hand side here, you can see we've got this little grid icon, and that'll allow me to switch back to any app that I need to, or the homepage. And from the homepage as well, we're going to start adding in some additional things, like from the Precision side of things, we can create what we call job workflows. And so, we can have a list of all of the jobs that are currently created and what needs to be actioned, things like, which client we're looking for, and maybe even some things around, items that have been submitted and so forth. So the inbox reviews. And so we want to kind of try and make this almost like a centralized hub for managers who might have larger teams, but also if you're an individual business owner or, a smaller team, again, giving you some relevant information to be able to switch easily through the applications and manage your workflows. So I just wanted to quickly tease that one as we then jump down into prepare. So look, the prepare process is fairly simple. What we probably want to highlight here are, the data extraction is like the heaviest part of it all, but really what we want to do is make it easy to automate the workflow once the information has been extracted. So let's say, for example, I jump down here into my client Supergear. There are some options that we like to create that just make it possible for you to have confidence in what you're sending across to the general ledger. So for example, one of the common concerns that I have with partners that I worked with is, well, we'd love to turn on your auto publishing capability, or basically the rule that allows us to send information immediately across to the general ledger. But we have some suppliers that send us through statements. And so we can't turn that function on because when we do auto publish, we don't want the statement to go through and duplicate the value in the general ledger. So we've actually got the ability underneath the configuration settings here in connection to actually segment out and allow rules based on the document type. So in this scenario, I can say here, anything that's an ATM withdrawal and other a statement or a delivery note or mileage, don't allow auto publishing for those document types. However, you can allow it for receipts, invoices, and credit notes. So again, that just sort of adds a rule or a filter that enable you to switch auto publish on potentially with a bit more confidence than you have in previous systems. So should I wait until the end for any questions? I probably should.
No, well, I'll try and interrupt here and there, but we'll have time for questions at the end as well. But just for those who've never seen the system, can you just briefly let people know how these documents get into Dext Prepare before they see this page, right? So for people who've never used it, right?
Yeah, sorry, getting ahead of myself. I do this a lot. So up on the top right here, we've got our different submission methods. So as you can see here, we've got the ability to upload different document types. So things related to bills, invoices, and then also bank statements. So if you've got a client who, for whatever reason, doesn't have a bank feed, or they might have, you know, an account that they don't have online banking or something to that effect, if you ever need to extract bank statements, we've also got the ability to do that through our bank statement extraction function. So basically, you just select the document type that you're uploading. If you've got multiple users, just identify which user, and then you can upload the item either via the drag and drop here. And we've got 3 other main submission methods. So the most popular of all of these is actually the mobile app. So you can chuck in someone's mobile number there, yeah, whatever that number ends up being, send them the invitation. And just so you can see what that looks like, let me see if I can actually get this to share the mobile app view. Awesome. Perfect. So this is the mobile app. And so effectively you get this to download onto the client's mobile. They would then simply use the plus symbol at the bottom here to take a photo of a receipt. We'll pretend that I've got one here. They can then just simply hit that submit button at the bottom, or if they'd like to, they can add any additional information by literally just dragging up that little card at the bottom. So you can add in an account code category. You could add in a bit of a description as to what this is. You know, you could even assign tracking codes or job codes from within the system here, and then simply just hit submit, and that will then go into the queue to be extracted. What's really good about this as well is we've actually developed the system to be able to manage not only the costs for the business, but also if you've got staff reimbursements. As you can see on sort of the right-hand side towards the bottom there, we've got our expense reports section. So, you know, you might submit an item, group that in as part of an expense report, and actually manage the staff reimbursements from within the platform to send that report over when you're running the payroll to reimburse the staff members. And also you've got the ability to review the archive. And something else that I quite like is the ability to communicate directly with team members. So if you've got a scenario where, let's say, the actual client hasn't given you enough information as part of that description to actually see what's going on, you can use, and I'm just going to send myself a quick message here. So I switch back to this one. So you've actually got, should I do, no, I'll leave it on the mobile app and then we'll switch back over. So let's say, for example, the water utility, I needed to message them and actually ask a question, you know, what was this for? I can hit send on that. And then you'll notice up on the top right, the little bell icon has suddenly become populated. So I can then tap on that little bell icon and you can see here that I've got a question for Sydney Water. I can tap into that and that's that question has come directly from me. I can then reply to that, you know, it was for property X. And reply. And so if I then switch back to the system on the desktop, on the cloud there, cool. So you can see within the actual item itself, we've got the details and we've got that messaging function, we've got that audit trail available to us. So, you know, it's really easy for us to sort of manage these communications backwards and forwards and actually keep that record with the document itself. But no, and the other submission methods, which are really quite useful, obviously the supplier fetch or the invoicing fetch function. So basically this allows us to enter in a client's login details to a particular supplier, and then we can retrieve the PDFs from that online portal on a regular basis. So we scan for new documents every week and basically let you know if we've managed to pull something through and add that to your costs items here. If I needed to add a new connection, it's just a simple case of getting the client to enter in their credentials. So let's say, for example, I needed them to enter in their BP details. I can then hit connect. And that will then prompt me to go to the landing page to enter in the username and password for my, BP fuel statements. and then you just hit connect. Now, just bear in mind as well, if you are connecting that through, we do prioritize security. So it may take a little bit of time just to authenticate and make sure that we've got the account securely connected. So if that's taking a little bit of time, you can open up another tab and work out of that. But yeah, we just want to make sure that that's secure, particularly if we're dealing with like bank statements, which is another form of document fetching. So on the left-hand side here under the fetch connections area, we've also got bank statements that you can connect. And so if we wanted to collect bank statements directly from their online banking portal, you can do that through here.
Matthew, what
Awesome.
is there, like, give us an idea of how many different sort of companies or institutions you can connect with to do that fetching?
Yeah, that is a great question. We do have a full list. Where is that? All suppliers available. So this is the list. Now, granted, not all of these are within our region, but yeah, I think the list roughly last time I counted was about 1,500 or something around that number. So we're constantly adding to it. So basically come in and have a look. So I think it's around that 1,500 mark last I checked.
So all the major banks and utility suppliers?
Yeah, I mean, there are some that we might not have yet. I'm trying to think of one. Do we have Oh no, we've got
and
respawning now.
Like, how do you add new ones? I mean, is that just sort of, can you request some, a company? You can. Oh, there we go. Great.
Yeah, so just underneath the search. So if I search for a particular supplier that I can't find, so I'm trying to think of one that we haven't got that might be a bit more popular. Have
you got Officeworks? Probably do.
Yeah, we've got Officeworks. I'm just trying to, let's say, for example, I've done a search for a supplier that we don't have. And yeah, I can't think of anyone right now. But then you just hit this request here underneath the search. So if you've gotten a nil result, you just then put in the name and put in the website for the login page of that supplier. And then we can add that to our request list. So basically, we just do it based on priority. So if we see that 500 requests have come through for a particular website, that obviously gets done first. So if you've got a fairly niche or small supplier that no one's requesting, either jump on social media and get the bandwagon going so everyone requests it, or be patient and we'll eventually get back to it.
Great, thanks.
No, that's fine. That's good questions. And the last one there is the email in function. So to highlight this one, actually, I'll switch back to my super gear as a client. Just because I've got more users set up in here. So underneath each user profile that you create within the client file, and bear in mind, as an accounting practice, we give you an unlimited number of users within each business. So the idea here is actually you can create individual profiles for each staff member. And as a part of that, we'll actually create unique email addresses for each business. For each user. So what this means is if I wanted to submit an item as my user profile, all I need to do is email it through to spacerus.accounts@dextcc. And that will then allow the item to go through under my login. Something else that's quite useful here as well, if you've got a situation where you've scanned in like multiple PDF items invoices into a single PDF, if you just put at multiple.dext.cc, what we'll actually do is instead of just grabbing that as a single item, we'll recognize that you've requested that we break it up, and we'll break the PDF out based on the page break. So every page will then become its own individual item. So if you've bulk scanned something in, you can actually segment it out that way. Or if you're dragging and dropping, there's an option just on the right here where you can select one document per page. And so what that will mean is it'll split the PDF out. So let's say there were 10 pages on the PDF. It'll split it out into 10 separate invoices just to make sure that we're not missing anything. So so there's multiple ways to get this in. And I think this is really kind of the point. We wanted to make sure that we had as many options as possible because not all business owners are going to be happy with the mobile app. Conversely, not everyone's going to be happy with emailing things. So it's really just a case of what's going to fit them best. But we wanted to get as many options on the table as we could. I've seen some as well even just give this email address out to their suppliers. just so that as the supplier sends the invoice to them, it goes straight into the Dext inbox rather than even hitting their email account. Awesome. So yeah, so we've got lots of different functions that are sort of designed to make this easy. So once we've got the item extracted, we then want to try and automate that workflow. So like we were talking about before, we can set up some rules based on the document type. We can also set up some rules based on the supplier. So if we see the supplier here, if it's a supplier you've never seen before, we give you like this little Google it button so that you can actually search the web to find out a little bit more about who the supplier is, just to help potentially from a coding perspective. But also if I wanted to, I could set up some automated rules. So if I click into the supplier rules section here, I can assign a default account code. I could even assign a default customer if I needed to rebuild this, tracking codes, default due dates, you know, smart split items as well if I needed to break it up into different line items on an automatic basis. And so all of these rules can be configured to just speed up the processing of the work. So basically what we suggest is that, from our research anyway, up to about 1 in 5 items are like repetitive and so don't really require human intervention. So really what we want to try and do is get, you know, 20% of the items that are coming through from your clients going through without even having to touch them. So, you know, if we've got a world-class extraction engine, we've got the ability to sort of customize and set steps up in the system that allow it to go through and be identified if there is something you do need to review, then, you know, we're going to cut down that workload by 1/5. And then, you know, something as well that we can set a rule up on, which is often one that's overlooked, but I don't know if anyone's got here a client that likes to pay for items out of whatever account they have money in at the time. Yeah, for anyone who's doing some of the bookkeeping or reconciliation work, I know that that one's probably a trigger point. It was for me. But what we can actually do is extract the payment reference. So we can actually extract the card number from the receipt, and you can set up a totally separate workflow based on that card number. So if I wanted to, I could say, right, if ever I see the owner's personal card be used, so if I come into this payment method section here, so if I know that the personal card's been used, I can actually direct the item through to a loan account, potentially in the general ledger that I set up, so that even though the item will go through the purchase section, I know that it's actually been paid out of a loan account, which I can then just clear at the end of every month. Or it might be a situation where I say, look, I definitely don't want to create a loan account, but what I might do is just turn off auto publishing for that card number. So even if the supplier rule says to send it through, this card number will prevent it from going through, and I can then add that to an expense report if need be. And so it just gives you, again, all of this sort of customization of the workflow just to get the information in, make it easy to review it and easy to push through, yeah, to improve the workflow. Now, I don't know, I thought I saw a question pop up just before.
I did type an answer in because you had already shown the answer to that question, which was about the multiple pages.
Oh, yep, perfect.
Yep. But we've just had another one pop in. So
yeah, so good question. So this
to go through up to 3 hours, and when you hit boost my items because I need to finish, there may be a charge. I have not seen that in my account. Tell us about that. This is obviously someone who uses it already.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, so basically sometimes the extraction, and this is where we want to try and get the client to upload at the point of sale generally, or at the point of receiving the document, so that extraction time becomes irrelevant. But having said that, there are going to be situations in which you then go, right, well, I definitely want this to be done promptly. So as part of the processing, and what I might try and do is just upload an item. So just give me a second. Let me find a receipt. Hopefully I haven't put that one in before, otherwise it'll just merge it as a duplicate. Yeah, that one's a duplicate item. Sorry, let me just grab another receipt so that I can push this through. But effectively, there's two things you can do. You can either boost the item, which does come at a charge because we do need to try and mitigate the load on the servers. What we found is when we made that button free, everyone just kept tapping it for no good reason. And so we thought we'd put it kind of like that same mentality towards like a toll, where we just want to try and discourage people from using it unless it's absolutely necessary. But you do get a certain amount, I think, free each month as part of your subscriptions. So yeah, as long as you don't overuse it, you shouldn't notice a charge of any variety. If I just try and upload some sort of invoice,
It does seem to vary a bit. I mean, certainly over the years I've used it, sometimes the processing is almost immediate, and other times I have to walk away for hours.
Yeah.
What governs that? Is that something at your end, or is that just sort of?
It's generally just demand. So we're a general purpose platform. So similar to the way the road system works, if a lot of people all of a sudden hop in their cars and drive at the exact same time, it's going to impact how quickly we can process things. So yeah, generally speaking, it'll be either the load that we've got at the time, or it might even just be that the document that you've uploaded has actually been flagged for review. So in other words, the machine learning has gone through, tried to find all of the fields, and it's struggled to find maybe one or two. And so in that scenario, if I go into...
And so it then takes more time to try to find the fields to match up the data and so on.
Exactly. So it's basically just going, well, hold on, I want to make sure that I've got the right answer here, because we, again, tell it to prioritize accuracy. So I've really got to get some new receipts into the system, because I keep, there we go. Yeah, so that was a duplicate as well. Awesome.
Oh, don't worry about that, because we've still got to get through Dext Precision.
No, that's all right. I just wanted to show this particular one. So if you can see here, this one's now queued for extraction. Now, if I was to switch back, oh crap, it's already done, isn't it? Yeah, okay. So the processing of the time currently is not too bad. But yeah, if you're in that processing section, if you hover the mouse above the progress bar, it'll actually show you what fields it's already extracted. So you can actually just choose to move it into the inbox and then fill in the last one or two that it's having trouble with without it incurring any cost.
Oh, that's
so you can actually,
okay.
so you can actually see it's like already got like maybe 7 out of the 8 fields, or 7 out of 9 fields, depending on the document type. And you might just go, oh, okay, well, I can just do those last 2 and then move it in. So that doesn't cost you anything.
Okay,
so hopefully that answers the question.
All right, and Gabby, we'll come back to security, because I think you can talk about security at the end of the whole thing for both systems. So we'll just park that question. But so what about a large PDF document that contains 50 pages made up of, say, 30 invoices? And a combination of single page invoices and multi-page invoices. I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Gabby, because you
so
necessarily do a massive upload for that. But sorry, go on, Matt.
No, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say, Gabby, this is like a project that we're doing at the moment. So the toughest thing to teach a machine learning algorithm is to contextualize. So like, for example, you might look at a document, and based on the color scheme that's used on one page versus the next, we can assume and go, oh, well, actually, those are actually probably, they belong to each other. Machine learning can't do that. It can't tell the difference between a chihuahua and a cupcake at this moment. And so whenever I hear someone say like, oh, machine uprising is coming soon, it's like, well, until it can distinguish between a cupcake and a chihuahua, we're probably a fair way off. But yeah, so this one, we're trying to teach it at the moment. So what you will see is we're working on a project which hopefully, if it's successful, we'll be able to release into beta and start working on over the second half of this year. But we're trying to teach it to be able to do that, where it'll say, right, here's 50 pages, but actually of these 50 pages in this PDF, pages 1 and 2 belong together. Whereas page 3 is a standalone and page 4 is a standalone, whereas 5, 6, 7 are actually meant to be kept together. So we're kind of working on that project at the moment. So yeah, watch this space. But yeah, really good question. So anyway, so that's all of the prepare side, and obviously then push through some of the other functionalities around like bank matching for Xero and paperwork matching. So, if you've got a situation where a client uploads documentation late, you can populate that directly from here into the reconciled item by just uploading the image through what we call the paperwork match. So if we can see that there's already an entry in the system, you can just choose to send the image across into the already reconciled item rather than publishing it as a duplicate.
Right.
And also this function here where we can actually see for Xero, we can actually look at the bank feed. And if we can see that the bank feed item, like there's a line on the bank feed that matches what we've got on the item, you can choose to autofill that, and that will actually send it through as a paid bill. So yeah, we've got a whole bunch of workflow options here, but yeah, we definitely need to jump into precision. Sorry, I can talk about this stuff all day, but let's switch over. So I've got this tab set up. Sorry, I'm just gonna get into this one. Yeah, I need to move all of this information across into our centralized demo file. So I'll move that across later. So this is Dext Precision. So this system is really designed to tackle three main problems. So the first of which is quoting and onboarding. How do I know what to price for clients? Because oftentimes I think they think we have a crystal ball and can tell how much time we're going to spend on a file. You know, I don't know if anyone's had this where you get asked the question, you know, what's your bookkeeping fee? So, well, tell me about your business. And they turn around and say, well, I'll tell you about my business after you tell me what your fee is going to be. It's like, this is a chicken and egg scenario here. I need the information first. So what we've designed the system to do is actually plug into a Xero or QBO file, pull through all of that data, and then actually comprise what we call a health score. So in effect, we're just going to highlight some key areas of data integrity. Now, bear in mind, this is data integrity, not business performance. So for example, we just want to see, is the bank all reconciled? Do we have duplicate contacts? Do we have contacts going across multiple account codes? Do we have duplicate transactions? Those sorts of things are what we consider to be data quality. Whether they've paid their superannuation on time or whether they're being compliant with their regulatory requirements is sort of a different question to what this health score is looking at. Though we can highlight those things, it's not comprising the health score because it's purely around sort of that data integrity piece. So I'm looking at this file, we're giving it a health score of 37. The reason for that is because the reporting lock date hasn't been updated in 2 years. It doesn't look like they've run their depreciation on their assets since February of last year. We've got 1,900 unreconciled items, so on and so forth. So there's a lot to clean up with this file. And to get that kind of information through, all I need to do is either, if the client's given me access, click Add Client, and then add them in via the sort of usual process, where you click the general ledger and then select the file. Or you can actually invite the user in as a team member temporarily to attach their own file. So if this is the quoting piece, you can actually give them access, and note that if you just make sure that they're a member, they'll only have the ability to see the Xero files or QBO files that their email address is matched to. So when they actually get added, they won't see any other client files. They'll just go in and add their own, and then they can be booted off the system. So you can delete the team member. So once that's actually synchronized, it'll take a few minutes, but we'll pull all of that data through, give you that health score. And then something else that's really good from the bookkeeping perspective is what we call the activity stats. So we know that not all transactions are created equal. And as we move further away from hourly rates, you know, the question then becomes, how do we quantify the amount of work that we're doing? And so transaction volumes is kind of becoming a fairly standard or accepted practice elsewhere in the world. And so this report just gives you the ability to break out the sales, bills, credit notes, journals, and bank transactions across, you know, any set period of time that you select, to get a gauge of how much work is actually going to be involved with this client, and therefore how much you should charge. Even better, we break it out by month as well. So if you can see the transactional volume and the turnover are decreasing over time, it actually looks like this particular client is either struggling or planning on finishing up. So, you know, you can have all of this information readily available to you within a matter of minutes, rather than having the client spend sort of half an hour giving what I'm going to be honest and say is probably guesses about their business. Because yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen a discovery where the business owner really knew their business and their Xero file down to the T. So yeah, happy to
I agree.
be wrong.
I think that's pretty rare. So yeah. This, you know, assuming you get permission to sync with the file, yep. Rather than spending a lot of time digging around in the file to get an idea of what's going on and try to work out what the problems are, which can take an hour or more depending on the state of health of that file, this can give you a lot
Yeah.
of info really quickly to make those decisions. Like, yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. You know, like to quote on, say, a historical catch-up job.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this suddenly becomes a lot easier than trying to estimate, you know, how much time you might spend.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, this is a really good point because we've made both of these different reports. So this overview, we've actually made it a white label report that you can export.
Mm-hmm.
So we can actually make this a part of the engagement letter, where you say to the client, look, here's what we found. You can embed your logo up in the top left. I've just put in a whole bunch of superhero logos because I'm a nerd. But, you know, we can sort of show them, look, this is the health score we've given. Here's what we found. Here's why we think that's important.
Can you
You know,
edit that text? You know, so if I want to add a whole lot of thoughts about, say, the unreconciled transactions, can we edit that?
so the only thing that's editable is really the parameter. So you basically would select what date range you're looking at. But otherwise, we're basically just giving a very generic description about what's in here. So yeah.
Great. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great to see.
And then the other one is the activity stats, right? So you might actually say for the health report, this is why we're going to charge you a fee for the cleanup work, because obviously there's quite a bit in it. But we can see from the bookkeeping perspective, and I can export this report from the activity stats, that you're actually not going to do a whole lot of activity. So your bookkeeping fee might be something different. So rather than getting lumped together, you can say we're actually focusing on this body of work, which is really important so that you can wrap up the business if that's your goal. But, you know, at least we can then see where you're heading. And the other side of this, which is really nice, is if they do sign up as a client and you are managing them, this is really useful for scope creep. So if you've got a client whose business grows, you know, again, you can easily identify where they were and where they are and actually use this to have that conversation. Rather than waiting for, you know, the end of the next year to say, hey, actually your business size has doubled. I'm doing twice the work for the same fee. You know, you can now do this based on time, or what I like to jokingly call kilometers. You know, it's either every 3 months or 6 months, or if you exceed a certain transaction volume, that we go up. So just change the pricing dynamic.
And it's so easy to check, you know, because of course, depending on what systems you're using for your own administration, you know, that's not always a 1 minute process to check, you know, oh, well, yeah, what has changed in the last 12 months for this client? A lot of us would spend time really looking at that. This, again, becomes really easy with measurable data. So
exactly. And then if I want to change the time parameters, so if I want to look at, you know, say the previous 2 years, I can just change the date range, recalculate the data, and that'll then repopulate the stats. So,
okay, well, I know we're kind of running out of time, and we've just in case we've got questions, we've got to cover off a few things. So we want to talk about security. I want to talk about setup time, because that's really important in our world. You know, a realistic estimate of how much time it would take a bookkeeper to get set up and start using the system. And then the last thing we want to quickly look at is, you know, what kind of plans do you have for bookkeepers? A lot of people might already know you can be invited into an account by your client when the client has the subscription. So that's easy, but, you know, tell us about the options for us as advisors, what sort of plans we can have. So
definitely, I'll give you as much time as I can, Amit. I'll answer the first two, and then I'll let you talk about the plans, because that's what it goes out of my scope of view.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So yeah, setup times really are about, you know, like to implement precision or prepare. I'd say you won't take any more than sort of a month to set up. And that's getting all of your clients on board and getting them submitting, because we do have an onboarding specialist that will help you get that up and running. With precision,
when you say a month, I mean, does that mean 5 minutes per client, you know, each week, or an hour per client, or like that?
Yeah.
More idea, like what, like I can see that it might take you a month to get to know it all, but, you know, the actual setup and, you know, let's just say you have one client It's just
Yeah, one client.
what's
No, yeah, I reckon you could get it set up in half an hour with one client. Literally just getting them to attach their Xero file,
yep.
Going through and setting up the settings the way you want it to, and then making sure they can submit via the mobile. Precision, it's even quicker. I've actually implemented this with a larger firm and uploaded 180 general ledger files in half an hour. So
Okay.
it's not a very complicated system to implement. You know, what the implementation side of the precision that does take a little bit is maybe changing your workflow habits, because the focus section here allows you to create jobs and tasks and manage your workflows by looking at data within the actual Xero file
That
itself.
looks like we need a whole other tech talk on workflow.
Yeah, this one could take a whole other section. So yeah, so this one takes a bit longer, but if you're doing it purely for those other stats and just getting the figures, yeah, no time at all.
And I mean, I guess, you know, one of the things that does take a bit of time over time while you use it, just from my experience, is in Dext Prepare, is setting up all the rules for every supplier. That you know, just takes some time to do that and get to know the different kinds of settings that are available. So you can use it very quickly, but then the refining takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, and that's what I'd say a month is probably like to have it up to the point where I would be really happy with it is probably like a month, and that just that's the setup and the refinement.
And
there's security. Sorry, I'll just quickly answer that one. We use the same security encryption as online banking, so we use 256-bit. So yeah, in order for us to have those bank fetch connections and the bank feeds and all that sort of stuff, we have to have that same level. So we've got our what do you call it, SSO security levels all verified. So yeah, same as online banking basically.
Great. Okay, if a client has a desktop system and wants to send receipts through Dext, you can certainly do it through a desktop and email. Because there are ways, they're a different platform. I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, so if they've got a desktop system, the only question is whether they can upload from a CSV. So for example, in Prepare, if I select all of these items, I can actually export this out into a CSV file. So they don't have to be connected to a general ledger file. You can upload the chart of accounts sort of manually, and then I can download this as an export. So as long as the desktop system can receive a CSV file, you should actually save a lot of time with that.
That's great. I never even thought about that, to be honest. So thanks for that question. That's great to know. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So now you can almost get like a hybrid of cloud and desktop going if you've got Prepare doing the capture and then doing that export and upload.
Yeah. So if it's just for the bookkeeper to see them and enter them, not sure. Do you want to have a go at that? What that might mean?
Yeah, so just for the bookkeeper to, I mean, like if it's just about visibility, maybe that's what Aaron is referring to. So yeah, if you wanted to actually have it here and then manually enter it yourself, I mean, no reason why you couldn't. I'd probably just, as I said, if you can try and find a way to upload, that way you don't have to actually manually type and transfer between the two. But if you don't have an upload, it's still good to have a source document repository. You know, it saves the filing at least.
A lot of my clients just use the email option.
Yeah.
They don't even necessarily use the phone app. Some of them have only used the phone app, but others just email straight in. So, if you can upload to CSV, can you download to MyOb?
Depends on which version of MyOb. So obviously MyOb Essentials and MyOb Account Write Live, we've got direct integrations with, but I think the last desktop version was version 19 of MyOb. I can't remember. I think there is an option, but it's not pretty, is basically what I've been told.
But the current Account Write and Essentials, there's no problem.
Yeah, you can just ship it straight across.
Pre-Account Write Live.
Yeah, like if you're dealing with like a really old file.
If anyone's still on those versions, they need to nudge to upgrade.
Yeah. So we've got the MyOb integration there.
So Okay, let's hear about the plans.
Yeah, Amit, I'll hand over to you, mate.
So guys, it's quite simple, I guess. One of the things we'd want to do is get you in touch with one of the guys on my team. So I head up the sort of sales teams from a sort of new relationship perspective here at Dext. I think we'd probably want to understand your individual circumstances as well before we sort of delve into a solution and so on. But essentially, in order to come on board with us, where we sort of handhold you, have our teams looking after you at different stages in the process. For example, the first 30 days, you would have an onboarding consultant whose goal primarily is to help with the take-up of your clients. So actually to help you to sell it on to your clients, to have them use the system and see the value in as short a time as possible. And obviously for yourself in your practice as well, to be able to try to get those efficiencies happening ASAP. So that's the first 30 days. You'll have an onboarding consultant. And then on from that, you've got an account manager, a dedicated account manager who obviously be on the journey with you to do the same thing, continue to have the take up, continue the take up process with your clients, and also move with you as you grow your business, but also be as a point of contact for any questions you have around the system as well. So the starting point is 10 clients for Precision and Prepare. So there are other options if you've got sort of one client, that you're working with at the moment, or one or two clients, let's say, then maybe the partner program, which is what we call, which is what I described just then, is maybe not for you. But if you're sort of coming up to that 10 client mark, or if you're sort of a growing business and you'll be there very soon, or if you're more than 10 clients at the moment, then certainly the partner program will be the way to go. And look, pricing wise, just if you're looking sort of 10 clients for the Prepare, it would be sort of $25 per client, so $250 a month. But what we got at the moment with that Precision product is although it's been around for close to a year now, we're sort of still in the stage where we're trying to get it up to the level of uptake as we have with Prepare. So we have an offer at the moment where it's essentially you get both products at the 10 client level for the $250. So we've invested heavily in the Precision product. As you can see, it's a fantastic product. It always gets people's attention in various events we run. We run sort of Dext events and so on periodically, and that's the one that people haven't heard of. They're keen to know more. But so we sort of can do both for the $250 amount. But I'd encourage you to sort of get in touch. I'll have my details circulated to Joe, so that if you have any queries. Is that how you want to run it, Joe, in terms of guys, if they want to sort of reach out and so on, that they come through to you and then perhaps come through to me?
We can do a bit more of that detail later on, but usually what happens is we put the recording up on the website with somebody's contact details. So whether that's you or someone else at your organisation, people have got an email or a phone or whatever to make contact if they're interested. And people, of course, can always email me as well. So, okay. So if you've got, if you say in that awkward zone of, say, you've got 5 clients, you're planning to grow, but you don't know how long it's going to take you to get to 10 or 20 clients, but you want to get your systems in place, from when you're very small. And this is what we really encourage people to, even if you've only got a couple of clients, you get your systems in place. It's so much easier to grow. What are the options there for people, or is it really not viable?
So, we get people coming on board with the partner program from all the way up from, 2 clients, 5 clients, and so on. The starting point is 10 clients, but what we do is we do have some plans for people in those positions where we look to sort of step it up in terms of the costing for the first sort of few months. So we do have ways where we can talk to you about, open a conversation around, okay, so where are you at as a business? Where are you trying to go? What can we do to work with you long term? Obviously, you're in that stage where you've come to a realization that you want to make a change. You want to this is your next step as a practice is to automate some of these processes to create the efficiencies to maybe either increase the number of clients each of your bookkeepers are dealing with, or maybe move towards things like the more of the advisory conversations. So sort of to try to use maybe a product like Position to maybe step into advisory conversations, or even start to offer those value-based offerings. And we speak to practices all the time that are trying to move away from hourly-based pricing to value-based and so on and so forth. So we'll open that conversation with you, and certainly I think we should explore those options. If that's not something that you're looking at sort of the next sort of 6-12 months and so on, if it's sort of more of a long-term thing to get to that 10 client level, then perhaps you can look at more of a direct option where your business clients can sort of go on sort of directly, and then obviously when you're at that stage to open that broader conversation, we can do that as well.
Yeah. So there are options. I think I'll just quickly add to that if I can. We want to work with you as best we can. For anyone who's been using Receipt Bank for years, thank you for going through all of the pricing experimentation that we did over the last 2 to 3 years. We know it's been painful, but what we wanted to do was just figure out what's actually the best approach, because I know there's a lot of software subscriptions that charge per client or per user, and we were just kind of keen to test and see if that was actually the right way forward, or to see if we could push ourselves into a new generation. We have settled on that per client sort of model, and we do it in bundle sets. So yeah, bundles of 10. So if you are in that sort of in between of a stage, have a chat with either your account manager or have a chat with the new partner team if you're just coming on board. Because yeah, we do know that sometimes it requires a bit of a transition rather than just a straight, okay, you've got 11 clients on now, you need to jump to 20. That's not how we operate. It's more a case of saying yeah, let's work together. Let's actually partner with you, because we want to make sure, as Amit was suggesting, that you're getting the revenue streams in by utilizing our tools, not just being cold, hard and fast about it. And so there are 2 questions on here. So where is support located? So our partner success team is located here in Australia, but we do have online support that's 24/7. So depending on when you contact us, depends on where the operator is located. So that's that top one. And then
Australia in business hours, but potentially overseas outside of business hours. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. So if you've got a situation, and it might just be that you've called late in the afternoon, and then UK time, it's their morning, so we might switch it over to the UK to help with that side. And some questions here from Shirley. So if you have a plan with Receipt Bank, are we going to have to change? Look, if you're on one of the really old plans, we're obviously trying to pack as much feature value as we can into the newer ones, because we do want to get to a point where we can advertise our partner pricing within the portal. At the moment, because we did so many experiments, it's a bit of a dog's breakfast, I'll be completely honest. So we are getting to that point where it's more consistent across the board. So depending on when you signed up, there may be some changes that will move, but stereotypically, if you're on that per client pricing, you're on the final model that we ended up resting on. It's good to know we started there, did all the experimentation, and ended up at the same point. So we now know for sure that that's the right way to go for the industry. Apologies for all the guinea pigs. And then the next one here, so do we get an email with the account manager details? So you do get the contact information of the account manager. You'll go through onboarding first. So you'll have the email address of the partner success consultant initially. But once that first 30 days is completed, we've got you set up. We'll then introduce you to your account manager, who does have a direct email address that you can contact.
Okay, all right. We've got through all the questions. It is 1:30 for anybody who needs to disappear right on the dot. If there's any burning last questions, send them through now, people. But as usual, this recording will go up somewhere in the next few days. If you want to recap anything, and we'll put some contact details in as well. And we might talk about getting you guys back to show us more about workflow processes, because I think that's really relevant for our world as well. Especially if that's part of Precision, which looks like a great product.
I did not leave enough time for that. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I feel like we've had we've just had a teaser.
Sorry.
So we can talk about doing a whole session on precision and workflow, I think. Particularly if that's included in the pricing at the moment. So based on what you said about that, does that mean you will be charging for them separately in the future?
So at the moment, if you buy a Precision bundle of 10, it's $10 per client file. So it's $100 for the first 10. And now bear in mind that all of these subscriptions do eventually scale, right? So Prepare, once I think it's past 30 clients or 20 clients, it starts to get cheaper per client as an overall. So, it's $250 the first bundle of 20 is $450. So it becomes $22 something a file.
Yep.
Precision, however, once you hit 75 clients is when it starts to dilute itself. So it's a higher point, but it's a lower entry point as well. So 10 versus 25. So $10 per client file. And as I said, that workflow section's included. There's a whole list of tools. Like there's also like a function in there that searches the ABR for if you've got for TPAR reporting, any gaps in your TPAR reporting or any clients that have claimed GST on their invoice that aren't actually registered for it. So there's like,
we need to do more on that. So, okay. I think if I ask you any more questions, we'll just keep talking. So
I'm sorry. I'll be quiet. I'll mute myself.
No, that's great. Thank you both. It's been a really good overview. And I will talk to you about doing another session on precision. And thanks everybody for coming along today and all the questions. And thanks, Amit. Thanks, Matthew. And we'll see you all next month.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye.